100% quantanium? I don't think I've ever seen that. Good morning, you guys, and welcome to another day in the life of a miner. Today, what I want to talk to you guys about is which is better, the Prospector or the Mole? I think it's a question that's burning in a lot of people's minds, given all the changes that they've done to mining in the 3.19 patch, and we're going into 3.20. Is it still practical to go out with a Prospector, or is the Mole simply just better? So let's break this down. So number one, let's talk ore capacity. The Prospector has 32 ores, and the Mole can take 96 SCUs of ore. Now, on the surface, right, that's a third of the Mole, which it makes sense in a way, I guess, because, you know, the Mole has 3 lasers, the Prospector has 1 laser, and I'm assuming that they're trying to make this like 1 laser per 32 SCUs cargo. I feel it's a bit arbitrary because the Mole is a rather large mining vehicle objectively, and it feels kind of annoying. I feel like there's a lot of unused space that kind of goes in with that, or you could maybe carry 2 or 4 more saddlebags in the Mole. But moving on, well, if you guys don't know, which many of you do if you're watching this and you're a miner, that you can equip the Mole saddlebags onto the Prospector to the point that you can make them permanent. So now the Prospector has 48 SCUs of cargo space, which is half of the Mole. Now that is a fantastic upgrade for the Prospector. So now we're putting it a little bit more on par. Maybe you could say better, because it is half the Mole's capacity in the same packaging. All right, fair enough. So let's move on past that. So you've got laser capacity. So, right, so size 1 lasers on the surface, right, it makes sense that they themselves are less powerful than the size 2s. That makes a lot of sense, right? Size 1, size 2, that's the whole point. And a size 1 laser, if you put a helix on it, caps out at what, 3,150, I think is what's on the helix 1, and the helix 2 caps out at 480 if you slap that on the Mole. So power is obviously going to favor the Mole, which makes a lot of sense. It doesn't make sense to me, though, that I'm going to put on a size 2 laser, but I'm only going to get 1,000 more power. I feel like that doesn't necessarily match up to what we're like committing with the Mole, because the Mole is like, what, I think 2 million more than the Prospector is. So we're spending out a little bit more money, but I think that more money for ore capacity is a lot better. For the laser, it's not as good of a deal. It takes 2 modules on the helix 1, you put 3 modules on a helix 2, and I think that alone does kind of push the helix 2 a little bit further past it, because the modules, if you're not using them, you're doing it wrong. I think mods are an amazing addition to your laser. If you haven't seen my video on it, go watch it some other time, not right now, because we're talking about this right now, and you can learn something, a thing or two. But not all the modules are very practical, and I think something they really need to change about mining, both with the Prospector and the Mole, is extraction laser power and what that does and how it affects the mining experience. Because right now, the purpose of extraction laser power is how fast you extract a, oh my goodness, this keeps disconnecting. Why? So right now, extraction laser power currently, as it sits right now, only affects how fast you're extracting. When have you ever been sitting there mining and you thought, man, you know what would really make this process so much faster? If I could extract this stuff quicker, man, that would really streamline this whole mining experience. I don't think I've ever heard or think anyone's ever said that phrase. Now, I will say, though, something that you could do with extraction laser power is if you made that relative to the size of a rock you could extract. That would be a huge improvement to the mining experience, because now people would probably craft a laser, right, build, even if it's a Prospector or maybe even one on the Mole, to be able to take, you know, a huge extraction laser power. Because, well, you're telling me that, let's like make it ridiculous, like a 10,000 mass rock. Okay, so you're telling me a 10K rock, I can now extract that just as it is. I don't need to fracture it. and I can just accept it all. Now, hear me out. I know some of you are like, well, Fox, doesn't make any sense because that would be really overpowered. I mean, your mining runs would take like no time at all. You're right. That could make mining runs very, very fast, but would it make them efficient? I would say no, because think about rocks before you first fracture them. Have you ever seen a pure 100% anything before you first fracture? Probably not. So now, sure, you could extract this 10K mass rock, but it's gonna be, you know, whatever, you know, 10% inert materials, and it's gonna be 40% like aluminum, and then 60% barrel, like a best case scenario. Okay, cool. Well, like, yeah, you're gonna be able to just extract that outright, like up front, and like that seems a bit, I don't know, unfair, I guess, in a way. For some people may view it that way, but you're sacrificing efficiency for speed, right? I'm not getting the purest load, all right? I'm gonna have to take some not so valuable materials, but the trade-off is I don't have to sit here and fracture rocks and take time. So now I'm going for volume instead of quality, which is valid. You know, some people do that now. I think that'd be a huge change to it. But back to the Prospector mole thing, with the way they've changed it and they made rocks so big, I don't think the Prospector is as valid as it used to be, just because the Prospector, it's very limited. The Helix 1, because it only takes two, excuse me, it only takes two module slots. Well, we're very limited in what we're able to accomplish, right? So we could put two surges on it, but surges, as I've talked about before, have limited number of uses. So we're limiting ourselves in uses. The Prospector is easier to get out of as a ship, right? It's easier, it's faster to get out of the seat, it's faster to get out of the door and onto the ground to like do whatever it is you need to do. Like, I get it. I 100% understand. But is that worth the lack of capacity and the lack of laser power and versatility? Because something I really enjoy about the mole is it's having 3 lasers. Because let's say I'm in a Prospector and I'm out doing a mining run, right? And in a Prospector, I find an amazing rock that's like, I don't know, what's something a Prospector would never be able to break? Like 40K, 30K, right? And quantanium rock. Well, I can't just necessarily bring anyone to come help me, right? I now have to bring in someone with a mining ship to come help me. At least a Prospector. Maybe not like a mole, but they would at least need to bring a Prospector for us to crack this rock, right? And not everyone playing the game on your server may be mining at that time, right? So now we're running the risk that, well, we're gonna have to pass up this like fantastic rock. Why? Because we don't have the tools necessary. No one wants to help us. Now, if I'm in a mole, the way I run my mole is I craft builds, and my back lasers are support lasers, and they have a very, ooh, look at this puppy. Okay. I wonder if I could crack this, even though it has 40%. What's it called? 40% resistance. I mean, this is a really good looking rock. I like this. But with 3 lasers, right? And I craft my lasers a very specific way that my front laser allows me to do solo mining, but if I needed to bring someone else in, I could. The question for me always remains, it's like, well, is it going to be worth it to bring a Prospector just for the sole fact that it flies a little bit quicker and I can access the mining laser up front? I'd say no, because by having these extra lasers, if I need help, I can just have someone fly over, whatever ship they have, doesn't matter. They can land, they can hop in my ship. And usually if I have like a quantanium rock or something really valuable is when I ask for help, then, you know, someone will run over and I'll offer to pay them like, I don't know, something stupid like, hey, I'll pay you $50,000 or $100,000 for coming to help me real quick on this run. And if this is like, if I know I'm getting like a lot of quantanium from this, right? Like you know, we're talking like 40% quantanium, like a 40,000 mass rock, then like that's a pretty solid deal for them and for me, because to them they're like, wow, I'm getting paid $100,000 for 10 minutes. Like you can't get much better money than that. Yeah, sure, I guess, but for me, I'm paying them virtually nothing to get them to do this for me. Oh yeah, we're gonna crack this easily. I'm I'm paying them essentially nothing to do this for me, right? Because that's 5 SCUs, and if I get 20, 25 SCUs out of this, like I'm making big money. Oh. Like I'm making huge money on this rock, and I'm paying someone, I don't want to say I'm paying them nothing, but compared to what I'm getting, I'm paying them nothing. Fair wages for fair work is what I say. I'm paying you a healthy amount of money. I'm giving you a lot of money for what you're doing. However, for me, right, I'm making out of this a bandit because I don't have to give you a lot of money, right? I'm not giving you an equal share. You're not supplying the vessel. You're not supplying the gadgets, or you're not really supplying much of anything. You know, I'm supplying all the equipment. You're just supplying the body to work a laser for me, and I don't even really need them to do much of anything. They're just, hey, you're gonna be in this laser, you're gonna point it at the rock, you're gonna turn it on, you're gonna shoot it, and then, you know what I mean, like that. And then it's gonna break, and then we're gonna scoop, you're gonna hop out of the thing, we're gonna scoop it all up. Or maybe I don't do it that way. Maybe I'm like, hey, you're gonna, you know, well, we could scoop it all up and then you just hop out real quick, and well, whatever. And for them, for 10, 15 minutes of their time, that's a really good deal for them. It's a really good deal for me. But you can't do that in a prospector, right? You don't have that level of freedom to pull someone in, have them assist you in fracturing a rock. And I think that is something that's really underlooked. No, go up, go up, go up, go up, go up. I hate instability. Oh, this server sucks. Alright, I'm gonna use a stampede if this keeps doing this, just to stabilize the rock. Oh, yeah, I knew that was coming. Yeah, and I was staring at it. I knew that was coming. Oh my goodness, this controller, man. I don't know what's going on with my PC lately with this controller. But I've learned a lot by having the mole, because with the ability to pull people in, you can always find big rocks and you're never really limited by it. And then with the extra lasers, what I like to do is I craft them so they're good support lasers, but they're also very helpful just normal lasers, because let's say like these rocks, right, were being really hard for me to fracture. Well, I could always turn around and go back and have like hop in a rear laser and just do my fracturing with that if this was becoming too much of a hassle. I picked up a lot of aluminum there. I did not realize I picked up so much aluminum. Oh, there's a lot of Bexlite there. Yeah. If it was too much of a hassle, and then I'd be able to break these very, very easily with like little to no heartache for myself in this process. And I think an important thing when you're mining is you always want to play as if you're going to be mining by yourself, unless you know you have people coming out with you. But you don't always have the luxury of like having someone to come mine with you and help you do this stuff. And like even then you're splitting the profits, because like for me, I'm like, if I'm going to bring another person, I want it to be worthwhile. And for it to be worthwhile, I would say we need like loads with like Bexlite or a Terranite. I don't really like gold, but gold, or maybe Quantanium if you get lucky enough. But you're probably not, right? Quantanium, like, yeah, it's super easy to justify splitting a load with someone that's full of Quantanium, right? Like, obviously, you're gonna have more than enough money to go around to like split that, right? Not really much of a concern. But past that, like, let's say we're cracking barrel rocks or Hephaestonite rocks. Well, like, are we really are we really gonna get bang for our buck here, or no? I don't think so. I don't think you're gonna be able to, because if I have someone helping me with beryl and hephaestonite rocks, I mean, that's gonna come out at a fifth of a million, right? It comes out at 200,000 a load. Like if you had a pure beryl or hephaestonite load, I've done this, it comes out to about 200,000. Okay, cool. That's super nice and all, but the only problem with that is, well, to split that between two people, that's 100,000 a person, and the mining run's still gonna take you probably like 20 minutes. So what's more valuable? Is it more valuable to do it by yourself and take 30 minutes and make 200,000, or take someone else and do it in 15 to 20 minutes and make 10,000? Personally, I would say it's better to do that by yourself, because you can just do that type of mining by yourself. Now, if you're mining just for the fun of it and going out with other people and just generally enjoying your experience, I mean, do that. Like, play the game how you want to play the game. Don't, listen to me about money grubbing and making all this money. Like, play the game how you want to play the game. But I am just saying that, look into it. It may be more beneficial for you if you're trying to make money, which a lot of people are, to go the other route. Because that's just a reality. I don't like this load right here is decent value, but I mean, this is very abnormal, right? You don't get to find a rock that's beryl mixed with bexolite all the time. I find maybe 1 or 2 of these a week, which is not a lot. If you had a large rock with this kind of split, I mean, that's amazing. If you had a huge rock, like this rock was small, I guess you could say, for what it was. But if you had a rock that was like 30,000, 40,000 mass, like that would be spectacular as far as what you're trying to go for. Because then I'm telling you right now, like if I had that right, that would probably fill up my mole, like a 30K rock with that kind of split, because beryl takes up so much SCU space. Not in a bad way, I mean that in a very good, heartfelt way, because beryl is a very good resource. If you don't know, I'd say it's one of the best you could possibly have, because beryl is like 100 mass to SCU, maybe a little more, maybe you need like 110, 120 SCU. If you guys don't know, if you ever looked at charts or anything when it comes to this type of stuff, the lower the number, the better off you are trying to like mine that material. Because if the lower the number means the less material you need to make an SCU. And generally, oh good God, I'm gonna hop in the back for that. Yeah, I need to hop in the back for that rock. There's no way I'm cracking that. That gold zone, that optimal zone is gonna go straight to like nothing once I touch that. Yeah. Yeah, oh, those are good rocks. So now this is funny, because this leads into what I was talking about earlier. Now I don't have to sit here and struggle with this rock, because the optimal zone is going to become so small, and the resistance is kind of up there, and the instability is up there, and it's just going to be a huge hassle for me to try to like break these rocks. I love desync. Climbing the same ladder 15 times is amazing. Sorry, I was doing a quick little 30K check to see if people were like, impending doom. But the little things like that, being able to hop into a rear laser, it makes all the difference in the mole, I think. Because you can't do this in a prospector, right? Like if it's a hassle to mine, then you either have to figure it out or move on. But in the mole, I can come back here, I can hop in this laser. It's got a completely different setup, completely different build, different range, right? I don't even need to move my ship. Which is another thing when you're building the laser for the mole, right? When you're like having these auxiliary lasers and support lasers, something to keep in mind is how it's going to affect the positioning of your ship. Because you could, right, hypothetically, put 3 helix 2s. How many times am I going to have to press this button? Hypothetically, put 3 helix 2s on here and be like, oh wow, I can now break rocks, like the biggest rocks in the game. Right, and you maybe you could, right? Because I mean, at that point, you're talking like 100, over 100K rock could get broken by your mole. But realistically speaking, as far as support lasers go, that would not be practical. Oh no! I did not want to overheat this rock. That's not good. That's not good. Oh no, it's not gonna deheat enough. Oh, I don't want to lose this rock. Come on. Come on, I don't want to lose this rock. Fuck. I goofed that up real bad. Real bad. Yep. I just lost so much. I just lost so much right there. Oh my god. That was awful. I can't believe I just did that. Well, at least it saved the Beck's light. That's, I guess I'll take a small win out of that. It just cost me all the barrel, but kept me all the Becks. No, that's my fault. That's what I get for being patient. See how big it just made that charge window? That's the little things that make all the difference when you're mining. But anyway, crafting these support lasers, because the optimal range and the maximum range of the helix doesn't add up for the mold, right? If I put 2 helixes in the back, if I'm good for the front laser, I'm not going to be good for the rear lasers, right? And if I'm good for the rear lasers, I'm going to be way too close for the front laser. Almost did it again. I don't want to use the Stampede Burst on this. It's not going to be good for the back lasers. So now I have to decide how I want to craft these lasers, right? That's the reality of where you're at, which is tough, right? And you have to decide. If you have 2 people, maybe running 2 Helix 2s in the back could be worthwhile. But I always say build for your most likely scenario. Don't build for like what you're going for, right? Because if I put 2 helixes in the back and that's like what we're after, okay, well, you're not going to get the most out of that build if you don't have large rocks, right? Because that's a build that's built for large rocks. It's not a build that's built for small rocks. So small rocks are just going to be a giant waste of your time because your friend's going to be in the laser the whole time, but now you got to come all the way to the back, hop in, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not worth it, right? So build for what you're actually going to have happen. Don't build for what you're hoping for. And my build does do that, right? I have my back lasers. Right now, I think they match each other with a focus and a stampede. That way they can balance out instability if need be. But they can also, if we were all shooting at the same rock, we could all be in the optimal distance without having to move at all, right? If I brought 2 people in to help man lasers. And that is a huge, huge win, right? That alone makes it so, so much better to like mine and do things. But also with the way I have this set up, like you saw, I can come into this back laser, right? And coming into this back laser, I have full view of everything the front laser had, and I also have the ability to see more because my range is further. So like those rocks that were way out, oh yeah, I don't need to like worry about my helix getting them. I can just get them with my Hofstede, right? This right here ordinarily would be really hard to mine, but I shoot it with this rear laser, which is built for support. It's got a little less power, so it's easier to manage, and it makes the charge window bigger. And the charge window being bigger is a huge, huge help when you're cracking smaller rocks, because that's what you want. You want the easiest experience possible cracking small rocks. And I don't know what it is about these small rocks, but like they love to have like this 14K rock. Oh, it really wants me to fracture this right now. I don't know why SIG think that's like amusing or entertaining. I don't find it in the slightest. I find it quite a hassle because there's been rocks of like, I don't know, 3,000 mass that I've been able to extract. And you'll probably see it in the time that like we're mining here today, that I will probably be able to just extract a rock that was twice the size of the one that I just fractured. And it's like, why do I even have to do that? Why is that such a hassle? I don't know. You know, SIG being SIG, and you know, Star Citizen being Star Citizen, it is what it is. Barrel Bexlite aluminum, pretty decent split. I just love rocks that have like barrel of Hephaestonite mixed with like a Terranite or a Bexlite. Like you can't beat that. You can't beat it. It doesn't get much better, honestly. It really doesn't. I mean, we're almost filled up off this load. And if you remember when we started this, we had way more aluminum than everything else, and now we have more everything else than aluminum, which is what I was going for. I figured that was going to be the case, but I was a little nervous at first. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, we went from 10 aluminum to now we have 15 aluminum, but everything else was sub 10, and now it's all over 20, which is fantastic. Barrel, a little bit of Bexelite. Yeah, barrel is just such a good resource. You can't turn down barrel. You just can't beat it. Do I want to do these, or at least that one? 20%. I have a 50. Oh no, it's got like no SCU mass to it. It's not gonna be worth it. And now some people will take the aluminum. I don't take the aluminum just because I don't want to take up space. Because let's say if I did take all that aluminum right now, it still wouldn't fill up my mole. So I'd still have to go either bust another rock or do something. All right, I wouldn't be able to just get away with what I got. And this server's kind of right now. All right, so it should just need one more rock and we'll be done with this run. So back to the mole prospector discussion. So the mole is a bit jankier to fly. It is not as smooth controlling as a prospector. And it has a lot of little isms like you just watched where you have to climb ladders, go down ladders, get up ladders, get into turrets, get out of turrets. And it doesn't have that freedom of maneuver that the prospector has. And I think that's valid. That is a fair point. You know what I mean? Let's see. Is this mineable? No. No, what I'm looking for anyway. All right, let's get out of here. And that is a fair point that it does have a heavy influence in what you're doing. But is that there's little tricks you can do for the mole that can make it better. Like if you watch me go up and down these ladders, up the ladder, there's not really anything you can do, right? Up the ladder's up the ladder, right? It is what it is. That's gonna be rock stuff, yep. But over here, oh, yo, that's not. Oh, it is. What? What? That's an 11780 signature, and that's a rock mineable deposit. That's crazy. That's a crazy deposit right there. What in the world? I thought for sure that was going to be something else. I don't see those very often. That's a gold mine if you were a rock miner right now. Well, I say that, but if it was Dolovine, it'd be like a so-so deposit. Yeah. I had that deposit, that would be rocking and rolling, but... this one? Another one? What in the world? What are these deposits? This is crazy. Wow. What a hadanite. I mean, I don't know what that's a deposit of, but that's spectacular. Wow, that's crazy. I don't even know anymore. I don't know. When I'm rock mining, I feel like I can never find anything to rock mine. And then when I'm in like a mole or a prospector, I feel like I find it all the time. So, you got clunkiness, which the mole is a little bit worse, but if you get used to it, it's not so bad. So clunkiness in the mole, you have more capacity in the mole, you get better laser power in the mole, you get better utility in the mole. The little tricks you can learn, like if you go backwards down a ladder in the mole, you actually don't have to sit through the animation to do anything in the mole, if you don't know that. You walk backwards down the ladder, you'll fall down the ladder. For the laser ladder, only thing you need to do is just make sure that you grab the ladder before the bottom and you won't take damage, right? That's the big thing about falling backwards down the ladder is you will take damage, but if you just fall backwards, grab the ladder somewhere before the end, as you do it more, you get better at it. Then you absolve yourself of having to do all the unnecessary animations. 7,000. That's a lot of Festinite. I might just break that rock to be done with this if these aren't good. I'm not going to fly anywhere else. So personally, I think the mole is the better choice. I mean, if you've watched my videos, you've seen me fly around in a mole the entire time because the mole it's just better. You get more utility, more laser power, more capability, more hauling power. It's hard to argue how effective this is. Laranite seems like a good choice. I know it's what you're probably thinking, but Laranite has a terrible SCU to mass ratio. If it was Borace, then maybe, but it's not. Unless there's something good in this. The heavy. Oh! Scoot. That is not a lot of Quantanium, but I'll take it. Hey, that's good enough for me. Hey, I'm not gonna scoff at Quantanium. Hey, you got me sold, baby. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, Quantanium's Quantanium. A win's a win. Get in this seat, playa. That's a little bit. Even if it's just a couple SCUs, that's worth it. I mean, I was like 40% too. Oh yeah, we'll fill up off these 2 rocks right here. Oh yeah. Oh, 40%? Yeah, 40%. What the world? Hey, be careful. See, it's not recognizing my laser, but as soon as it does, it's gonna drop the optimal zone. Hate corundum. This would be way easier to mine if it wasn't corundum. This is pro mining right here at its finest. It's really not registering my laser. Can you notice the optimal zone's not moving? It should be though. But this desync is kind of helping me. Definitely did not overcharge that rock at all, but sure. Claim it all you want. I did not even care. Rescue beacon. Get out of here, son. Alright, so I'll take the Quantanium first, and then we'll soak up whatever Laranite to like round out the ensemble. I know what I said. I know. I don't think Laranite is worth it, but that Quantanium is not going to fill up my mole, so I need something to supplement the not filling up the mole. And this will give me the ability to do that. Little trick for Quantanium mining. You always want to maximize your load as best you can. I mean, if you're getting a decent amount of Quantanium, like for me, it's going to be a good addition to my load. So I don't by any means think that it's an amazing amount of Quantanium. Like if I'd have first started mining and came across this rock, I'd have been like, I don't know if I would call it worth it per se, because it's going to be such a small amount. But since I already have all this Bexlite barrel and I'm going to take some Laranite too, I mean, oh, boom, right there. See, look, 2,000 mass, and I can automatically extract it, as before it made me fracture a 1,400 mass rock. That's the stuff I'm talking about. Aggravating. I do like how, though, it put Quantanium in a group on its own. Like 80% Quantanium in one rock. I mean, that's pretty good. Well, this is pure Quantanium, is it? 100% Quantanium? I don't think I've ever seen that. That's so cool. 100% Quantanium. Wow, look at their stats on that. 95% resistance, 10 instability. Wow, that's crazy. That's so cool. Oh man, what are the rest of these rocks? This fractured so well. Quantanium is such a good cluster factor. Like, I never realized how good its cluster factor was. Maybe because it's with corundum. Maybe corundum doesn't have a bad cluster factor. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better break, personally. I think this is fantastic. All right, well, let's scan some of these Laranite rocks, because what we're doing here, right, for you guys who aren't super familiar with how to do this type of mining, you want to scan all your rocks first, because your timer starts the moment I suck up a 0.01 SU Quantanium, the timer starts. So I need to get ahead on everything that I want, because once I start like extracting it, I need to move. Like I cannot be playing around. This is actually fractured really good over here. These 70%ers, this is really good. So this is gonna be a fantastic run now. Like now that I saw how pure that broke, that's really good. So you want to scan everything because it takes time to scan rocks, right? So you want to scan everything, get everything identified. That way, once I start pulling up this Quantanium, boom, I know exactly where I'm going generally. I don't need to wait to scan something. I don't need to take any more time than is necessary to get through what I'm about to get through. 25 minutes is a lot of time, but I'm not trying to like push my luck here. Not in the slightest. All right, let's get this Quantanium. Let's see, what does this give me? 15, so basically 16. Gave me 2 SCUs of Quantanium. Wow, that's like next to no Quantanium. That gave me almost next to nothing. Oh, there's one hiding back here. Oh, I saw it, I saw it, I saw it. I saw it, I saw it. Where is it? There it is. I saw that hiding back there. I saw that hiding back there. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Hey, give me that Quantanium, boy. I saw that hiding back there. I'm always looking out when I'm scanning my stuff. Always being careful. I mean, yeah, a couple SCUs of Quantanium, I'll take it. Now you see why I wanted to fracture this Laranite rock. I already knew that Quantanium wasn't going to give me that much of it. So, I mean, 6 SCUs is still a great amount of Quantanium. I mean, that's going to add a lot of value to my load. But I knew I was going to need the Laranite to top me off. I knew it for a fact I was going to need this. But Laranite also has a terrible SCU to mass ratio, so you got to be careful. Like, I mean, you see how much Laranite I've gotten from those pieces. I mean, barely more than the Quantanium I have, so like next to nothing. Oh, come on, I need to see the rock behind you. I want to know what it is. Might be a Laranite rock. Nope, it's not. It's a corundum rock. Alright, I have to take this one. And that should do it. Alright, we're out of here. Let's blow this popsicle stand. I'd say overall, it's a pretty fantastic mining run. It took a little bit of time, but that Quantanium and the Bexalite's really gonna round out this run. That's a lot of value we got out of this. I think one of the funniest experiences I ever had was I had like 20 SCUs of Quantanium in my mole one time. Oh my goodness, this desync, I'm gonna climb this ladder 27 times. I had 20 SCUs of Quantanium, and I got back to the station, and we were on the verge of a 30K, like I knew it. So I got to the station, I was excited, I landed, I ran inside, I got to the ASOP terminal. I'm like, I know if I store it, the timer stops. So I stored it, right? So it wouldn't store. I pressed the button so many times, it just would not store. So I was like, fuck. I was like, okay, all right. I'm like, well, let's go to the refinery deck, all right? I'm not gonna be able to store it. Let's go to the refinery deck. Like, I need to stop this timer. So I run down to the refinery deck, longest elevated ride of my life. Run to the refinery terminal, get to the refinery terminal, and it's not working either. Like, I'm not able to like refine anything. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was like, well, let me Alt F4 or whatever it is, and hopefully, it's gonna like mess up the system and give me 30K protection. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I got the elevator down right. I got to the terminal. It wasn't working either. So I did the Alt F4 thing, right? And I went back to the, computer home screen, whatever you want to call it. So like, all right, I'm gonna leave it. I came back, 30K protection did work. So I saw my mole was stored in Loreville. That's where like my home station is, because it's in the middle of the system. So that's where I like, and I also refined out of her L2, which is where I'm going back to. So I saw it was there. I was like, okay, whew. So I went back and retrieved my ship, got in it, and I was like, well, as you know, in the mole, sure, I have the volatile cargo sign, but it doesn't tell me if the Quantanium's there. So I was like, well, it's not very helpful. Too close. I don't see it. Where's it? Where's the station at? Did it not jump me to the station? No, my goodness. It didn't. Oh, yeah, okay, it just hadn't rendered in. I was tripping for a second. I was like, what in the world? So I get into the ship and I'm like, huh. I was like, well, and the whole time I hear, meh, and I'm like, well, I never heard that before. I was like, I wonder if it's like damaged or something. Went, hopped into the laser, and foolishly I went into the main laser, right? It's the one that takes the longest to get out of. Hop in the main laser, look, the timer, I have like 3 minutes to get out of here. And like, get this thing to a refinery. So I'm like, oh my god. And I don't know if you ever tried to climb a mole out of atmosphere. It does not happen very quickly at all. So I was like, oh my Lanta. So I'm like booking it. We're going through this whole mental game, like emotional process all over again of like, but this time like I cannot mess up. It's like messing up like means like, oh my god, like you bump into something like it's volatile cargo, and then literally on the way there like the little light lights up and it's like volatile cargo, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, this is it, this is how I'm gonna die. I'm gonna lose 20 SCUs of quantanium. I'm like, that's so much, so much. I'm like, $1 million in my cargo hold I'm gonna lose. So I'm like, okay, we gotta yeah, pilot this, come on Fox, like get yourself together. So we get in here, just like this, smooth, best piloting I've ever done. It's probably why I got so good at landing this thing, is having to do that day. So we ran in, got it, we're to the buzzer. Like I wish I could see how much time was left once I like actually landed and got to the ASOP terminal, stored it, and then I stored the ship, and I was like, whew, I was like, all right, I feel, I can breathe again, I'm safe. Got to the terminal, got it refined, made my money like a week later when I went and dropped it off. Is fantastic. And definitely an experience I would encourage everyone to go through at least once. It will make you such a good mole pilot when you have to fly to the point that you have to precisely not mess it up, fly perfectly and as fast as you possibly can, and it will make you so good at the mole. So to wrap all this up and what we talked about, I think the Prospector could be a good stepping stone, but the mole overall for me is gonna win my vote in this battle. I think the mole is way more viable now than it was before, and with the giant rocks that they have in the game, I mean, you saw all the rocks that we were looking at. The Prospector caps out at such a small rock amount. I think if you're not running surges on your mole, not your mole, excuse me, your Prospector, it's just really not going to make it worthwhile for your mining runs, and you're going to find yourself struggling a lot to get really good, valuable runs. The only benefit I think it has is the smaller capacity allows you to kind of compress loads a little bit more, because you're never going to quite perfectly fill up a C2, Caterpillar, Taurus, whatever your chosen hauler is never going to perfectly get filled up. And I think you have a better chance of getting close to that with the Prospector. But the mole, with sheer power, the versatility, the ability to take 3 lasers, well, that scared me. And all the things you can add to it with all the different modules, the 96 SCU capacity, the quantum drive. I think the XL2, I forgot to talk about that, is probably the biggest thing. That quantum drive on the mole and the quantum fuel tank single-handedly makes it like such an amazing upgrade from the Prospector, because I can get anywhere in the Stanton system on 1 tank of fuel and get there in like 3 minutes. So literally you can mine wherever you want. Oh, that's pretty right there. That's 350,000. Oh yeah, that's almost 500,000 load right there. That's beautiful. So I think that's a huge win with the XL1. It's the best quantum drive in the game if you don't know that. Absolutely, if you get your mole, that's the first upgrade you need to do. Take yourself to Platinum Bay, get that thing upgraded, and you be set to go. 600 pure quantanium, what's it going to drop it down to? 521. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, that if it's over whatever the hard number is, 100-wise, so this is 521, it's still going to count as 6 SCUs of quantanium like on your ship, right? Because it's not going to put 0.21 of a container on your ship, right? It only does 1 SCU container, so I think that's going to count as 6 anyway. But I think we made out pretty good. This is an amazing haul. 35,000. We're going to come out of this with over 300,000 in our pocket once this is done refining. And what an amazing run. What an amazing day. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Oh, by the way, we're going to have a live stream of Starfield, guys, weekend that it drops. please come be a part of that. We'd be happy to have you. You guys are amazing, and we'll see you guys next time.